Oh. Sorry about the delay, everybody. I just got to the church. Don't mind me, I'm just sanitizing my hands. Let me get this off. We have to sanitize our hands and wear a mask anytime we enter the church these days. I'm in the studio now, though, so I think I'm okay to keep it off. Boy, we've had to learn a lot of new habits, haven't we, since the start of this pandemic? I mean, just a year ago, it would have been considered weird to wear a mask in public or sanitize your hands all the time, but now it's a part of our daily lives. It is important, though, don't get me wrong. I mean, we all have to do our part to slow the spread of COVID-19. Oh, man. This hand sanitizer smells real funky, though, I'll tell you. I wonder what causes that.
Well, I can answer that question, Murray.
Oh, look everybody, it's our friend Sam. Hi Sam, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing just fine, thanks. Sorry to interrupt, but I heard your question and thought that I could lend a hand with an answer or two.
Yeah, of course. Do you know why hand sanitizer smells so weird?
Well, the reason for that is hand sanitizer contains a lot of alcohol.
Alcohol? Isn't that what adults drink sometimes?
Well, yes, but alcohol isn't just a drink for adults. It's actually really useful as a sanitizing agent.
What? Sorry?
Well, a sanitizing agent is a chemical or substance that can destroy tiny germs and viruses that can make us sick. It's the alcohol in hand sanitizer that destroys germs on our hands, so they don't get in our mouths.
Oh, I get it, Sam. Yeah, that makes sense, actually. I've often thought that hand sanitizer smells kind of like an LCBO or something.
Well, it's funny you bring that up. Alcohol beverages are usually just drunk on special occasions, but in the old days, it was just as important as sanitizer is for us.
How so?
Well, people have known about alcohol sanitizing properties for a long time. Before people learned how to distill pure alcohol for just medical purposes, they used to produce wine that they would use to fight disease.
Wine? So, do you mean that people would, smear wine on their hands?
No, but people did used to mix wine when in their drinking water. Back when everyone's water came from wells, it was hard to guarantee that the water coming out of the ground was really free of germs and parasites, so people would mix wine with their water to let the alcohol kill off anything harmful that could be in it.
Oh, wow! That's actually really interesting, and it clarifies something for me that I've been wondering for a while.
What's that?
Well, you see, in the Bible, there are many references to wine and vineyards. In fact, Jesus often used vineyards as parables for the kingdom of God.
A parable? What's that?
Well, a parable is a story that Jesus used to tell to explain important ideas about heaven and God to people in a way that they could easily understand. There are actually some very famous parables about the vineyards of ancient Israel, where Jesus lived.
Oh, I'd like to hear one of those.
Of course, I'm always happy to tell a story. A lot of the most famous parables from Jesus come from the book of Matthew, and Jesus told most of them during his time in Jerusalem before he was arrested and crucified. Jesus told this story to a group of people that he was teaching near the temple.
Once upon a time, there was a vineyard owner who was looking for workers to help him produce his wine. At 9 a.m, he went out and hired a group of laborers at the marketplace. He agreed on the proper wage with them, and they went to work. At noon, he went out again and hired some more workers, and again at 3 o'clock. At the end of the day, it came time to pay all of the workers. First, the vineyard owner paid the workers he had hired at 3 o'clock, giving them the daily wage. Then he gave the same wage to the workers he had hired at noon. When the workers who had been hired first thing in the morning came to get paid, they expected to get more than the others, since they had worked the longest. But they got the same amount.
Hey, Is this a joke? We've worked way longer today than these other guys. Why are we getting paid the same amount as them?
Friend, do you think I've been unfair to you, even though you already agreed to the usual daily wage? I've given you just as much money for your work as you're entitled to. I gave these other workers the same wage because I wanted to. I have the right to do what I want with my money. Or are you just jealous because I chose to be generous to them? The daily wages that the vineyard owner gave out are God's blessings. God doesn't just bless people who are perfectly good and religious. God gives His blessings away freely because He is generous. Those that you think will be the very last will be the first in heaven, and those that you think will be the first will be the last in heaven.
Oh, I get it. Jesus used his metaphors to make sure that everyone could understand God and heaven, even if they weren't super religious.
That's right. Jesus made sure that his parables were easy to understand for all people, not just people who knew the scriptures very well. The parables of Jesus are some of the most important and iconic stories of the church.
Do you know any others?
Well, sure I do. Actually, I know another good parable about vineyards. This one comes from a discussion that Jesus was having with the religious authorities of the temple.
I remember that from your last video that Jesus and the religious authorities didn't exactly get along.
That's right. Many of Jesus' parables were actually meant to point out the corruption and hypocrisy of the religious leaders in Jerusalem at the time he was alive. This next story is one of the starkest examples of that.
A landowner decided to build a vineyard on his land. He built everything himself. He built the wall, dug a pit for pressing the grapes, and built a lookout tower. When his work was done, he leased the land to a group of farmers so that they could grow grapes for him, and then he went away to another country. At the end of the growing season, the vineyard owner sent 3 of his servants to collect his share of the crop. But the farmers were greedy, and they didn't want to give away any of the grapes. They beat up the servants and threw them out of the vineyard. The vineyard owner tried again, sending a large group of servants, but the same thing happened. Finally, the owner sent his own son to collect the crop, thinking that there was no way that the farmers would disrespect him. But when they saw him coming, they said to each other,
Oi! Here comes the vineyard's owner's son to take our grapes away.
Hey, wait a minute. That guy is the owner's only son. If we kill him, the vineyard owner won't have an heir, and we can keep this vineyard for ourselves forever.
And so the wicked farmers did just that. They murdered the owner's son. Now, what do you think will happen to those farmers when the landowner finds out what they did to his son?
He will make sure those farmers get punished for murdering his son, and then he'll lease the vineyard to honest farmers who will give him what they owe him.
That's right. In the same way, the kingdom of God will be taken away from people who do bad and given to people who do good.
Jesus' parable shows us that keeping our souls healthy means being good people in the sight of God. That means working hard, being honest, and making sure that we pray as often as we can. These things are as important for our soul as washing our hands is important for keeping our bodies healthy. Unfortunately, though, we often mess up.
Yeah, but luckily God has a lot of forgiveness for us, just like the vineyard owner was generous with his money to the workers who didn't work as long. God is generous to his children, even when they mess up trying to be good.
That's right, and that's really good news. Well, Sam, it was great seeing you. Thank you so much for dropping by to see us.
Goodbye, Murray. Goodbye, everyone. I'm out.
Here are some story review questions. What do you remember from the story? In the story of the vineyard owner, who hired his workers from the marketplace, why did the workers who had been hired first thing in the morning feel cheated at the end of the day? And why did the vineyard owner give the same pay to all of his workers? In the second parable we heard, the story of the evil farmers, who do you think the vineyard owner was? Who did he represent? And who was his son? After Jesus told the story of the evil farmers to the religious leaders in Jerusalem, he told them what the story meant. Do you remember what the point of it was? And now here are some questions that you can discuss with your family. God gave us all a body and a soul, and it's very important to keep both of them healthy. What can you do in your everyday life to keep your soul healthy? And what can you do, or do you do, to keep your body healthy? Have you ever been chosen last for something? How does that make you feel? When have you felt that something was unfair? How did that make you feel, and what did you do? Imagine what would happen in your house if the people who were last became first, and the first became last. That means the last people to go to bed become the first to go to bed, and the last people to leave for school become the first. How would that change life in your house?